Decoding unemployment, an analysis. Everyone is talking about unemployment the world over. It's a global issue like an epidemic. A major contributor towards depression and mental health. Let's list down the reasons for unemployment. 1. Government's inaction. 2. Women constantly joining the workforce. 3. Rural to urban migration. 4. The new generation quitting agriculture. 5. The new generation not interested in continuing traditional occupation. 6. Lack of standardized education to all. 7. Easy upbringing of the children. Let's discuss all these 7 reasons one by one so that we understand them more in detail. These are the key reasons as per my understanding. There may be more reasons also, but I will limit myself to these 7. We will now discuss government problem or the government inaction. What all can government or should the government be doing to ensure that employment is generated? And I will spell out few points, and there will be many more, but you will understand, you realize that the politicians are actually making a fool of us. Why they are doing, I will not talk about that much, but what all they should be doing, I will probably list out those points. Now, the most simple thing, like when I was in the Navy, we used to have manning plan. So, manning plan is that if there is a growth in the naval infrastructure or the number of ships, so if there are more ships, you need more people. Similarly, if suppose there is a collector for a city which has got a population of 5 lakhs, and imagine with time the population reaches 50 lakhs, you still have one collector. So, there should be a maximum limit for every position to which they can be allocated certain number of people to be governed. So, the government is about governing, and to govern a certain number of people, there should be those positions defined. If it goes beyond that, then you have to increase or divide the jurisdiction. So, suppose there are 50 lakh people now, so there should be actually 10 district magistrate, not just one, and the jurisdiction should be divided. And then there will be similarly over 10 collectors, there should be probably 2 commissioners, divisional commissioners. So, a new hierarchy has to be created as the population grows, and also the cities should be limited in terms of infinite growth, like Delhi and Mumbai and all the metro cities are growing infinitely, and you do not have the hierarchy and the protocol or the polity and the government, proper government structure to govern that exploding population of that city. So, this whole structure is not tweaked and not grown in the same scale, in the same ratio as the growth of population. So, that is the biggest thing which the government is avoiding doing it, because they take the tax money and they use it for their own populist schemes which never reach the people, and it gets siphoned off. So, that is the reason the government is not trying to give, because if they grow the people, the government force, they will have to pay salaries, and they just, the politicians, they need some reason to siphon off the money. So, they will not give, because here the money has to go into the salaries and pensions. They are also now removing pension also. So and government jobs are safe jobs, people feel safe and secure, unlike private jobs. So, it is very important. I think 4-5 decades back there were hardly any private jobs, and everybody had government jobs, and government jobs are all in those areas. So, people, if they were living in a particular state, they generally got job in that state. So, there was no migration, people did not have to move around. Most of the families, they live united and in a very cohesive way. They were all pretty close by, and there was a good support. So, many other social problems are solved if people do not have to run around, move around thousands of kilometers, search of jobs, leave their families, this creates breaking of the support system which exists due to the families which stay together. So, unemployment and this particular non-creation of government jobs leads to many problems, many problems. Now, if I will come to second thing is entrepreneurship, or I will say crony capitalism. The politicians, they promote crony capitalism. They should be promoting entrepreneurship. They create those different initiatives like Startup India and Stand Up India or Sit Down India. All those kind of things are being created, and 10,000 startups initiative by NASCOM. But nothing came out of it because everybody is making money out of it, these schemes, and they are only claiming they're doing their own networking, and they are seeing only their personal benefits, but nothing goes back to the people. The proper incubator for startups, for entrepreneurs should be something which a person wants to start a business, have to see what all he needs, and he should be provided that. If somebody comes with an idea and he wants to start that, he should be given a loan. He should be connected with people who can provide him the technology support. So there should be a technology team who should be helping to develop those ideas into a product, and then the product is given and the loan is given, and the person is then allowed whatever the person needs. That those incubators should be providing to those people. I mean, that's how entrepreneurship can be promoted. But these things don't happen. The people sitting there just enjoying life. So this is something, and also the government is not interested in entrepreneurship, because if there are entrepreneurs, how will they loot them? So it is easy to loot big fish. Is easy to channelize money back to the politicians through the big industries, crony capitalists. So that's why they encourage only crony capitalism, and they are least interested in small businesses. So they are actually not promoting. For an example, I will give you an example of telecom. I worked in telecom. If you compare Europe and India, in Europe every country is like a state in India. In every country there are 2 or 3 or 4 operators, mobile telecom companies, and some of them may be in multiple countries, like T-Mobile is in I think 5-6 countries, Orange might be in 2-3-4 countries. So generally they don't go beyond that. In India, if you see, it's just like Europe, but there are just 3 or 4 mobile companies who have operations in entire country. Instead of doing that, they could have made a rule that there will be 3 companies or 2 and 3 companies working in every state, and no company will be allowed to work in any other state. This way we can have 28 into 3, 28 states, 3, 72, 74 companies. So instead of 3 companies, telecom companies, we could have had 74 companies. This will generate huge amount of employment, because there will be a corporate office, so the number of people running. But what happens when you have a single company running the whole country, telecom company in the entire country? The scale changes, and the profitability is very huge, which goes to the owner. It doesn't get distributed, it doesn't go down to the people. The idea of running a business is not that somebody makes infinite amount of profit. The idea of doing business is that person makes decent amount of profit, but also gives employment to. So employment is a very important thing when the business is being set up, and if the business is distributed rather than centralized to very few people, then how will it promote entrepreneurship? How will it generate employment? How will it ensure that more people are into the same business? So we are a huge country, so we have this opportunity to break down these large companies into state-wise companies, so that more people can come into business and there can be more employment. So they are not doing this because of vested interest, because it's easy to loot a large company and have those interlocks, and it's easy to. Large companies, they know how to become corrupt, they know all those corrupt practices. Small businessmen, they will not understand. Then how the politician will how will they loot these companies? So it's basically the politician who are least interested in the country. They are only interested in siphoning off money, so that they can remain in power by using money. They use money to retain power. That's how the election runs. Now third thing is street vending. This street vending is so unorganized in India. If street vending can be organized and government can use the taxpayer money to create street food markets, vendor market, I want to say food, street vendor market. If you go to Sarojini Nagar in Delhi, there is a parallel street vendor market running in Sarojini Nagar and many other like Lajpat Nagar in Delhi. So many markets have a parallel street market running on the streets. They choke up almost 70% of the road space between the shops. The roads are very broad, but due to this street vendor, so we can have street vendor market. Government can create multiple street vendor market, and they should give those street vendor market at a very nominal cost to the street vendors, and on in terms of in form of some kind of installment and all, and or soft loan, so that they are allowed to. They should be facilitated rather than being made to run around and harassed and all. This is what happens, and government is actually collecting money from these shops and street vendors. It's all extortion. Government, the politicians are actually, the corporations and all, they are extorting. The police, they are extorting. These people have become they are like underworld. They are like underworld only, but like a white collar underworld. We have a blue collar underworld, and politicians are like white collar underworld, and all the government employees who are corrupt because they are channelizing money to the politicians. The politicians are collecting from all different sources, from the government employees, right from the bottommost to the corporates. Everywhere they are busy collecting money only. So because of this kind of corruption, which cannot be stopped by these politicians, because they are all corrupt. Where are educated politicians? Educated politicians are not there, and if we have uneducated politicians, this is what will happen. Then I mentioned about the startups. There should be a proper incubator and all, and also there should be some kind of socialism. Like we should have a ceiling in how much a person can earn, how much profit person can make, what should be how much wealth one person can accumulate. People have 10 houses, 20 houses. There should be a capping on that. If there are 100 people have not a single house, they can't afford one house, and there are some 10 people who have 100 houses. So instead of these 110 people having one house each for themselves, this distribution is like that. The 10 people have 100 houses and 100 people have not a single house. So what's happening? Because why should somebody have 20 houses, 30 houses, property everywhere, land everywhere, accumulating. So we are allowing a kind of crony capitalism at all level, and we are letting people make money, and then we create an imbalance in the society. So this imbalance should not be allowed. There should be a socialist kind of a thing within the democracy, and if we don't do that, and if we limit that, so people will not be greedy, and if that greed is not there, so obviously the wealth distribution will happen. And I think these are few things which the government should do, and which can generate employment, but frankly no politicians will do it. At least the politicians who are uneducated and they don't know how to do it, they are basically manipulated by the bureaucrats and the capitalists. As Jagat Guru Shankaracharya of Puri, Nishalanji Saraswati told, that this whole world is managed by 13 large corporations, including Indian and MNCs. And I don't have to name them. They all are managing the whole country, and they manage politicians through bureaucrats. So it's the bureaucrats who are bribed and controlled by the capitalist, and you have these politicians just signing contracts. They are only looking at what money they are making. They are not interested how the country is managed. It's left to the bureaucrats, and they are controlled by the capitalists. So with this, employment problem will never get sorted out. Another point which I forgot is public sector. Public sector is something which is being sold out to private. It's getting privatized slowly. Instead of controlling and governing, putting right governance, we are selling off the public sector. Public sector was a reputed job and it was supposed to be very sought after jobs in most of the colleges. And what have we done to the public sector over a period of time is very sad. What happened to BSNL? BSNL has the best infrastructure, but how we allowed the private sector to bribe the employees, and it's a big story. So we have allowed death of government run governance actually of all the infrastructure and machinery. And with this privatization, we have only created crony capitalism. We've destroyed the infrastructure which we had. We destroyed the capabilities which were built up through public sectors, and through privatization, actually nothing good has happened. It's only a benefit to a few people, a few elites. So we are creating an elite society, and we are creating a huge imbalance. So if you talk about employment, any government is going to give employment? I don't think so. Some really educated people will have to come into the system, and then only. Now we also need to understand and see or observe that one thing is women getting educated is good, but women getting educated doesn't mean education is for knowledge. It's not necessary that you study, you have to work. But now the trend is that everyone who gets educated, women also, they want to work, though there are still traditional women who have got educated, but they have not taken up job because they've given the priority to the house. And today what's happening is a lot of people who get married, they don't want to have children. This is also a new trend, and if they have, they will have one, because if you have three kids, it's very difficult for both husband and wife both to be working and out of the house and not being able to look after the children. And in cases, there are many cases where you have a family, parents are living with you, and they look after the children. Then in those situations, so each situation is different. I did cover this in my other video on feminism. So I'm only giving one example that suppose there are, if more people are coming, like in long time back, only men used to work. Now, if suppose women also work, so it's not that there'll be two Reliance group, there'll be two Adani group, there'll be two Tata group. They will double up the company because there are double number of people, because now it's double income group, and everybody wants to have. It's all about double income group. So if every woman wants to work, then nobody wants to work at home, and all those women who are coming into the workforce, from where will those jobs come? So they will be now competing with men. So the quantity of applicants increases as both the genders enter the job market, and with that it creates a tension in the system, and a competition in the system. So if suppose there were 1,000 people employed, there were 1,000 jobs, and initially all 1,000 were men. With over a period of time, suppose there are 1,000 jobs, and now there are 200 women. So there are 800 men and 200 women. So this ratio is gradually changing, and it may reach 300, 700. So what will happen? There are 300 women who fill up those positions, and there are so many men now sitting unemployed. So the unemployment is, if you really see the unemployment which is increasing, is majorly for men. The more men are getting unemployed because now it's a mixed workforce. So is it really needed that both men and women should work? And you can come up with those excuses that more money, we need more money, we can want better life. But then again, this is also creating an imbalance, because the society has to exist. If we change the system, we tinker with the system, it'll have an impact on the society, and there'll be many people. If you double up the applicants who are seeking employment, so obviously the employment ratio will just shoot up exponentially, and there'll be, instead of 100 people trying for a job, now there are 200 people trying for a job, because there are men and women both, and the number of jobs are same. So the employment ratio just doubles up, unemployment ratio just doubles up. So this is also one of the major factor which you have to really think unbiased and see how all these changes are impacting the society. And in fact, I will also like to add that the more women are favored in jobs, and I see a lot of women being employed, married women, and the men are unemployed. They are finding it struggling to find a job, or a lot of them are getting unemployed now. But women are able to, and women employment is not like they can be in a employment kind of employment which is not very ambitious, and so it's not about climbing a ladder, but it's about just being employed and earning some amount of money. So as far as employment is concerned, there is a favorite. It's the women are a favored lot, and generally they are favored more than men now, and that's what is happening. So all these factors are creating a stress on the socio-economic situation in almost every country. I came to LinkedIn after a gap of 2 years, and I saw the radical change on LinkedIn, that there are so many women who are employed. So it's not about, there is not a competition that women are empowered, or it's about equality, or women will do better than men. It's not a race. We are not two different species who are supposed to exist separately. We exist together, and there was a system, and when we have tinkered with the system, we are facing all kind of social problems now. And this is for each one of us to really dwell deep into and understand that what all problems are coming due to all these different factors. So this is the second factor which I spoke about, and leading to unemployment. There are some more factors I'll speak now. The next reason I could see, I observed during last couple of years, while traveling in villages and different places, I realized when I interacted with a lot of people, they said we don't have employment, and especially in a lot of village and specifically in mountains in Uttarakhand, where I travel a lot, and I meet a lot of locals, and they tell that we don't have employment. So I asked them straight question that you are talking about employment. Were you employed? What were you doing? They did farming. So I said, in a village, what kind of employment can be generated in a village? So he said, we don't have employment, so we children have to go out. I said, there was never a question of employment. India was 70 to 80% agricultural economy, and that is what is needed in world over. That we should be not everybody should be seeking employment. The employment is only that those numbers can be sought which are available. It's not that to run a country you need suppose 1,000 posts, and people say no, we want so only 1,000 can be absorbed in those posts. So only those can be employed. So if I'm just giving an example, there can be 1 crore, 1 million posts to run a country like India, suppose, or 10 million posts. So only 10 million can be employed. We have 20 companies, we have 100 companies, or we have 200 companies. So we have a fixed number of businesses, we have a fixed number of employees to govern the nation. So only those can be employed. Now we are trying to hit in the dark, and assuming there is some cloud where there are jobs being created randomly and infinitely, and people will just keep pouring in, you keep producing people, population can keep increasing, and government does nothing to scale up the infrastructure and the hierarchy and the polity to do the ratio proportion governance. So if that is not existing, and now people are migrating from rural to urban areas. So this rural to urban migration is creating a mess, because people are leaving traditional job. In India we had Varn system, so people did traditional jobs. So whoever was doing farming will continue to do farming generation after generation. But today what is happening, the new generation, they have gone into this so-called education, and education is, I don't know what people have sold, that education is mandatory. This is modern education. The most important education of humanity is missing, which was there earlier in India through Gurukul system. It was more about the humanity and the society. That education has gone missing, and people do some study in some school, they don't even study there, get some certificate, and then they say we are now educated.
and we want a job. We don't want to do farming. I'm telling you, so many villages are empty, literally 80% empty. Houses are empty. People have migrated, and there are villages which are literally 100% empty. So people are migrating, fields are empty, land is empty, land has become turning barren, total barren land. And even if some people who are left out, probably they thought they didn't have that kind of courage or confidence to leave and go, and they continued living there. So they are doing little bit of farming. This animal husbandry is literally missing. People don't have cows. Every house had a cow. Every house did farming. All that is gone. So they were all self-reliant. Those families were self-reliant, and not much was needed. Government could provide whatever basic necessities were needed. The government could have or should have provided. But now, if you leave your traditional jobs, and even not just in rural areas, if you see a Marwadi will do a retail business. So a lot of Marwadis on retail chains, shops they have, and it's a family-run business, and generation after generation they continue that. They have to do nothing. So a child who's 10-year-old, 12-year-old starts sitting in the shop, and by the time he's 15-year-old, he's learned all the tricks and he understands all the business. So he takes over slowly. So the family, it's a family-run business. But now, in even those families, they are going to study. Some of them are studying. When they go to study, they say, "I don't want to be in this business. I don't like it. I want to do some job," and they feel job is more prestigious or more white-collared. But they don't realize actually you are a slave. And everybody from being an entrepreneur, now they are trying to become slaves. So this is what is happening. This kind of migration which is happening is also creating more number of people. So before that I told you about women entering the workforce. Now I'm telling you everybody from the villages entering the workforce. I know so many families who have kids who have studied. They don't know where is their land also. So one person told me that my children don't know where is my land. They never venture to the farms, to the farmland. They're least interested. They're doing something else. So how will the government create jobs for all these people? That if everybody wants job, it's not possible. Who will do farming then? So farming, I think we'll reach some situation in 10-20 years that there will be no farming, because I know a lot of present generation farmers who are telling this farming is dead after us. No farming. And now the farmers are not doing farming, it's the labor who's doing the farming. So the farmers are replaced by the laborers. It's the labor which is doing farming. And the farmers are moving ahead. So there is a constant shift in the demography, in the social, setup, and it is causing stress. And there's nothing which government is trying to do to educate them and to tell it very clearly that if everybody wants job, where will the jobs come from? What is the whole equation for having jobs? How many jobs can be there? If everybody is going to be employed, then and everybody is going to govern, basically it's basically about governance. So if everybody is doing governance, then who will be governed? Who will be left to govern? So this tilt the shift from being governed to governing cannot be done. This ratio has to be maintained. For every probably 100%, there will be one person governing it or managing it, the infrastructure. That is what the government does. You can't have 50 people saying that I want to govern and only 50 will be left to be governed, or maybe 80 want to govern and 20 will be left to be governed. So you don't need 80 people to govern 20 people, needs of 20 people. Employment is only basically that do you do something for somebody who, as a community we need certain things, some uniform common infrastructure which has to be created by the governance. That is what is governance, and that is what is a government job. And you have to grow your own, you have to be producer, you have to produce your vegetable and food, and dependence on external things should be minimal. So that's another point which I thought is worth thinking about.
Next point is the new generation is not interested in continuing their traditional occupation, like the Varan system which was there. It was not there in India only. In Vedic times, I think that was the system. I was seeing one video in some city in Italy. where this guy makes some musical instrument, some string instrument, not guitar, but I don't know what exactly they call. So he was telling, somebody was asking him, interviewing him, and he said, I learned from my father and I'm like the master of it. So when you learn something traditionally from your, with the previous generation, from your parents, you know it better than, you don't have to go to any college to learn how to make a guitar. You will make guitars. So if somebody is making something, so whether it is products or it is service or whatever it is, like farming, so you know it best because you learned it from your ancestors, your parents, and there is no education needed to pursue that profession, which is your genetic. Basically, it's a genetic profession, and you don't have to go for any college degree or anything. And what is most important to learn in life is about humanity, which is not being taught. So we are becoming greedy with this modern education. We are becoming materialistic. This is what the modern education is actually kind of encouraging us. There is no teaching about humanity, and so this the urge to, because when everybody is going to a school, so they lose interest, they lose touch, they are not participating in the traditional business or whatever they have traditionally, and they are spending most of the time in school, and as they grow up ready to take responsibility, so they have just no idea about the traditional business, and then now they are hitting in the dark trying to figure out what job to take. Are they all qualified enough, or they are just simply educated with not qualification worth getting them a job? So they assume they are educated and they want that they should be getting employment, but employment is not that you just do anything and you get employed. So these are very complicated issues, and the traditional business, you see, dies down with that generation, with this generation. Maybe 2 decades back, this ending of traditional jobs began, and now people also don't know what kind of employment they want, what kind of education they can take. They are so lost. Till class 12, people don't know what line to take. Somebody is telling them do this, somebody is suggesting do that. So they are like clueless what job they should take. So it's they are pretty lost. This generation is pretty lost, and a lot of them are lazy and not hardworking. So they remain. It's nice to be confused and unaware, because if you are really serious about doing something in some other trade or some other line, then you will be making that effort to get into that line and work hard and explore and navigate. And otherwise you can sit and do nothing, burn your parents' money and crib and cry and not get any proper qualification, and then also cry that there is no job. And then I also see parents also crying that there is no job, and they are trying to hide the inadequacy of the children, which they are also equally responsible to put them into that direction, and the society is also responsible, because going to school is like a norm, and not doing what the traditional business was is also become a norm, and the children are having the way. Parents have no say. The society is changing. These modifications are taking us in the wrong direction. This is what I think. Now another, I won't say it's an important point, lack of standardized education for all. So that's another issue, especially in India. And I think this is something which is very, very important, that in education we have different layers of different standard of schools, where the kind of education which is imparted, the quality and the quantity both is not up to the mark, and there's a huge difference. There are government schools where in most of the country, except maybe place like Delhi and all, where the government has done something about them, but most of the states, the education provided in the government school is pathetic, and it doesn't compete, and we have different schools. So this is something very, very important, which the government should act on it,
And this is actually a part of the government responsibility to ensure that education is quality and standardized all across the nation, so that people at least have the equal opportunity to be able, so that they don't complain. It's up to now, it is their effort that how much they utilize this opportunity of equal education and right to education, and the quality of education, and a standardized education which enables them to go into the profession, whether they continue their traditional business or profession, or they get into look for employment. So whatever they do, they should be provided that opportunity, and that's health, education, infrastructure is the responsibility of the government to ensure that there's a equal opportunity, and there is no discrepancy or discrimination in the education system or health system. So this is also a very important factor, because if somebody cannot have the get the opportunity to get a quality education, then probably it's a struggle for that person to find a suitable employment. So this is also very, very important. And if you go to government schools, teachers don't come, they are I would say irresponsible, highly irresponsible, corrupt actually. So there is so much corruption in different form, and different departments, whether it's education department, they get salary, they're not accountable, there's no governance, there's no proper infrastructure, misuse of funds, everything is corrupt. So the whole system is corrupt. The last point I will like to highlight is it's basically the responsibility of the present parents. It's attributable to the parents. They the kind of upbringing they are giving now, the kind of upbringing the young people are having is very, very soft, very spoiled, very pampered, everything easy. It's on a cushion, like having a silver spoon, and there's no deprivation of people, things, and everything is being given on a platter, and life is made very comfortable. There's no kind of hardship and some kind of struggle or effort. Basically, I won't say struggle, but the effort to learn and learn different things, whether in sports. Make an effort to develop a personality, study hard, work hard, play hard, and learn other skills also. And but due to soft upbringing, they lose the charm of achieving something, because everything is coming on a platter. So this is also very important aspect of unemployment, because a lot of children will, when they get everything easy, they don't stop making that effort, and they don't have that kind of endurance or tenacity or perseverance to take up those tasks or employment of responsibility. They will crumble when given those responsibilities. They cannot stand up to handle those kind of challenges in a job. So I think this upbringing which we have is also very, very important, and also it's very important in shaping a child's personality and thinking also. It's not just about employment. This upbringing is actually creating a lot of social problem. People are, the young generation is very, very soft and delicate.